listen, my sister and brother, 'cause if you do, you'll hear voices that are calling across the air. And they're calling across the ocean, and they're calling across the land, and they will until we all understand that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is in pain, none of us are free. None of us are free. So we just got to step into it tonight. Massacres in the United States. I was blown away with how many massacres there are, despite the nationalities, sometimes sexes, women, children. Our history of massacres must be healed. And of course, the massacres of blacks. So, take a breath with me. In this uncomfortableness, in the darkness of the massacre, there is a light that's shining, and we get to be that light. Open ourselves up to see our history, and it is our history. It's not mine or yours, it's ours, and we're all a part of it. So, join me now as we take this journey to Ocoee. The Ocoee Massacre. The Ocoee Massacre, November the 2nd, 1920, the bloodiest day in modern political history. The newspaper at the time labeled it as a race riot. Two black communities in Ocoee, the Southern Baptist and the Northern community, known as the Methodist Quarter, had two very prominent, respected, and prosperous men. Their names, Julius Perry, known as July Perry, and Moses Norman. Each were owners of large tracts of farmland. In the upcoming election, November the 2nd, 1920, had the black community hopeful that they might see John Moses Chaney elected to the Senate. Judge John Moses Chaney began the voter registration campaign for black residents in Orange County. Leaders in his party believed black voters would be loyal to Republicans, since President Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, had freed the slaves. And blacks were registering in record numbers across the South. But in the weeks leading up to the election, members of the KKK warned blacks in the area that they would not be permitted to vote. And on November the 1st, the day before the election, the KKK marched through the black towns, threatening all black people, "You will not vote." This, along with the poll tax, was a voting fee that started in 1890 to keep blacks from voting in the South. Even though they were eligible to vote, they were required to pay the tax. The use of poll taxes for federal elections continued until 1964. And even then, 5 states enforced the tax for state elections until 1966, when the U.S. Supreme Court stepped in. Prior to the poll tax, other measures called black codes were enacted in southern states. The laws were designed to limit black people after slavery was abolished. Julius Perry and Moses Norman worked as activists, encouraging blacks to vote and paying the poll tax for some blacks who could not afford it. In Ocoee, Black and white Republican leaders held clinics to show Black residents how to register to vote, pay a poll tax, and cast a ballot. The 24th Amendment banned poll taxes in 1962. Despite the threats, a handful of Black residents in Ocoee, both men and women, showed up to the polls on Election Day. In the morning, they cast their ballots without incident, according to two accounts. But in the late afternoon, Moses Norman showed up to vote. Election officials told Norman that he hadn't paid his poll tax. And he said, "Yes, I have, sir." But he was turned away, and looking for help, Norman went to Cheney, the white judge, who advised him, try again, he said. But Norman was turned away, saying mysteriously his name wasn't on the voter registration. When word spread about Norman's attempt to vote, a posse of what became a lynch mob was formed under the leadership of Colonel Sam Salisbury, who was the former Orlando police chief at the time. He would later be elected mayor of Ocoee in 1951. By the evening, a white mob had arrived from Orlando. A rumor spread that Norman was hiding out in the home of July Perry, the Black landowner, the community leader in his early 50s who had been involved in voter registration. His house was surrounded by the mob. At some point, two white men were shot and killed, perhaps by Perry's teenage daughter, perhaps by one of the white men shooting. There was gunfire flowing everywhere, and then their house went up in a flame. Next, their AME church went up in a flame, where Norman and Perry were trustees, and at least two other dozen homes went up in flames that night. The option were to leave, get shot, or stay and burn. We may never know exactly how many Black residents were killed that night. Newspaper accounts said only 6. Witnesses remember many more. One person claimed 2.5 wagon loads of Black bodies were dumped in a trench near a lake. That land, hollow ground, there is a mass grave of Black people killed November 2nd, 1920. Amazingly, the Perrys made it out of the house alive. His wife and daughter were taken to a jail in Tampa. Perry, shot in the leg, was taken to a jail in Orlando. Within hours, a lynch mob pulled Perry from his cell, and he was brutally killed. His body left hanging in front of Judge Cheney's Orlando home. No one was ever held responsible for any of the deadly violence. The leader of the mob later became the Ocoee mayor. Some people never returned to Ocoee after the massacre, but many did and tried to rebuild, only to be pressured into signing their land away over to white people and being pushed out for good. Perry's family was cheated out of his land. While his wife was still in jail in Tampa, she signed over an executorship to Perry's land to Buford Sims, a Confederate captain and Perry's former employer. After years of litigation, his children received about $100 each for land that was sold for hundreds of thousands. Ocoee was a whites only, they called it sundown town, which meant Blacks were not allowed until the 1980s. Black folks in the region never forgot what happened there. In the late 1990s, a local activist group, the Democracy Forum, pressured for town halls to talk about the massacre and to build an exhibit. 15 years later, and 35 miles away, a Black teenager named Trayvon Martin was shot to death in Sanford, Florida, sparking the Black Lives Matter movement. This past summer, as the History Center put the final touches on its exhibit, the nation erupted in protest after the killing of another Black man, George Floyd. One evening, one of the staff members went to a Black Lives Matter protest in Orlando, where she was surprised to see a young man holding up a sign that read, July Perry, Ocoee, Florida, November the 2nd, 1920. Florida's Judge DeSantos signed an education bill for high school to start teaching the story of the Ocoee Massacre. Let us start learning our history so that we can see the darkness and shine a light on it, so that we may start the forgiveness process for all.